Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm your host, Jeff Howard, and I'm honored to have Tôka with me on Zoom. Hey, Tôka.
Yep.
We are separated by a vast distance. Tôka is sitting in London. I am sitting in Los Angeles, but thanks to Zoom, we get to have a great conversation. In fact, we just had one. If you listen to the podcast before this one, we talked all about Tôka and his film Nauru that took home 5 awards at Film Invasion Los Angeles in 2024. That's a festival that I'm the festival runner of. So I'm just going to name them off. You got 5 grand jury awards. So they're all from the grand jury, which was Best Featurette Sci-Fi, Best Screenplay for a Featurette, Best Supporting Performer in a Featurette. That was for Alessandra Vitanis. Best Cinematography for a Featurette. That was João Paulo Casalino. And Production Design, Ju Guedes. But
yes,
Ju. And all talented people. You brought just a wonderful group together to make Nauru, and it's an excellent film. And so people should listen to the podcast before this one to learn all about that and how it came to be. This podcast, we're just going to have a little fun and talk movies because I'll be asking you the Discover Indie Film 4 questions, which are name 3 favorite films, name an underrated film, name an overrated film, and name a lesser-known film for people to seek out. Sure. I learned in your interview that as a younger person, you were working at a Blockbuster and got to watch lots and lots of stuff. So I am looking forward to your list, sir.
Yeah, so 3, right? 3 favorites.
Yeah, you can do more if you need to, but the idea is just, 3 favorites.
During our conversation, I spoke about Taxi Driver, as being my first breakout to the cinema world, with the wonderful art that movies can be. But I'm just it's very difficult. So I'm just gonna narrow it down to sci-fi films. So I'm gonna pick 3 sci-fi films that are amongst my favorites, and that one of them will be 2001 by Stanley Kubrick. Another one, Blade Runner by Ridley Scott, and Solaris by Andrei Tarkovsky. So these 3. And this is
Well, I can tell you, 2001's on my list.
All right, it's on everybody's list, and
it kind of needs to be. Sometimes I debate on the Kubrick thing. I'm like, wow, maybe I should swap in Dr. Strangelove for 2001. But deep down, 2001 is just an incredible work. Blade Runner's incredible. The original Solaris, not the Soderbergh remake or whatever, was what it was, but. It's funny because when I saw Solaris the first time, Tarkovsky's, I confess that I said to myself, I wonder if he just watched 2001 and said, well, I'm going to make a Russian 2001.
Yeah, there's actually a Russian film that was made before 2001. It's called Ikari, I-K. Let me just Google that because it's a complicated name.
Sure. And in the meantime, I'll just add that...
Ikari XB1. That's the name of the film. Ikari, I-K-A-R-E-A. I-K-A-R-I-A. Ikarie. XB1. It was made in 1963 by this... unknown director named Jindřich Polak. I don't really know his work. I just know that one particular film. And a lot of people say that movie inspired 2001. And it's a great movie. It's a great Russian sci-fi movie that takes place in a spaceship, and they have to, they're traveling to a planet where they should colonize that planet. They should... but they go through a lot of problems along the way. But it's a great movie. I think everyone should watch it. It's a very, very unknown
Well, maybe.
That's yeah. I heard a lot about when I saw this movie, I heard a lot. That that movie sort of influenced Stanley Kubrick. I don't know if that proceeds or not, but yeah, I can see that when I watch the movie. Okay, I can see that being an influence.
Interesting. I brought it up, and it looks like in the USA they renamed it "Voyage to the End of the Universe."
In Brazil, it's called the same in Portuguese, like Viagem ao Fim do Universo. Yeah, that's the name in Portuguese. That's also the name in Portuguese.
1963 Czechoslovak. Oh,
Yeah,
Czechoslovakia only existed for a little while, but well,
yeah.
well, you could almost make that one your lesser known that people should seek out. But that's question number four. I'll I'll
Okay.
I'll take us, but I'll take us to number two, which is question two is a film you think is underrated.
Underrated. Well, I think most movies are underrated. Most movies that are made are underrated. There are a lot of underrated films. I just saw Clint Eastwood, Juror Number Two, and I thought it was a very good film, and no one spoke about that film. I recently saw that, and I recently saw their one, Jacques Audiard, Emilia. Also, very few people spoke about that film. Um, so there's a lot of underrated films. I don't even know where to start. I can talk to you about overrated films because um,
Hey, I'm happy for you
overrated.
to skip over under and go to over. Honestly, that's
Yeah, I
refreshing.
mean,
A lot of people always like, oh, I think this film always deserved more attention. But you're right. So many films deserve more attention than they get. So if you want to talk about some overrated ones that won awards or whatever for whatever reason, like in our society, globally we lift some films up that may not deserve it. But if you want to talk overrated, please do.
well, overrated. There is quite a list of overrated film, but I can talk. Oppenheimer, in my opinion, Oppenheimer is an overrated film. Uh, you know, that's because I mean Nolan's a great filmmaker. I just think Oppenheimer didn't really. And there's a very important thing that happened, and I think that movie didn't really quite get it because Oppenheimer was a Marxist. He was a Marxist, and there was a very serious conflict when he goes to the desert and he decides that he should move the project to that city. And the American version is what happens in the film, but there's another version to that story because they kicked out a lot of native people from that place. They kicked out very violently, very aggressively, and I was very curious about what Oppenheimer, as a Marxist, would feel about that and would think about that, like because he knew what happened to those natives in that city, in that particular place. And I don't know. I feel that the movie shouldn't have ignored that, but I know they did purposely because there's once again that's an American version of that story, and there's a lot of facts that are particularly feel like they're misinterpreted. But then I'm not speaking as I'm not talking about um, because there's a difference between um, my perception of the film, my personal perception of the film, and how I think it should have been perceived, and the way it was conceived. Christopher Nolan is a great director. You cannot deny that. It's he knows it's a very well conceived story, the way it was built, even though I don't agree with it. So that's kind of a. But I don't think it's a film that has this. People speak about this film as a huge breakthrough, and I didn't see none of that. Actually, I don't really see none of that in this whole film career. I think his best film is Dunkirk, to be honest. But since he's able to, I think he writes very complex stories, and praise for him to do that. I think he should. I wish more people would have that, would be as bold as he is. But sometimes you get too complex, and there's a lot of some of these. Not Oppenheimer, but some of these stories. There's some holes and some things that if you watch them more than once, okay, that doesn't really make sense. Being right here, does the astronaut need to explain to the other astronaut how wormholes function? I mean, that doesn't really that's not necessary. He actually explained it to the audience. That kind of dialogue happens a lot in his films. So, which I don't consider a major flaw. I just feel like those films are just, oh my God, they're like people just praise them too much. And I mean, people should watch more other, other sci-fi films. There's a lot of great options of sci-fi films to watch these days that are much better than these.
Agreed. And yeah, I'm always, not that we have to dive into this, but I'm always torn on historical films and when they base a film on a real person and then they're forced to fictionalize and forced to edit. And like, I know that Oppenheimer was based on one book that was one biography. So it's not like they read 10 to 15 accounts of his life and brought everything together. It was just really one biographer's version of his life. And I often whatever. I always had issues I always felt that sometimes filmmakers should just fictionalize it for real and make fictional names and then tell their fictional story instead of presenting an actual person who lives story inaccurately. Just admit that the whole thing is actually kind of fiction. But
yeah. I think I know that they were looking for that appeal. Oppenheimer, the guy who made a bomb, I think he was looking for that. He wanted to tell his story, and I think he got impressed. He was impressed with his book, even though it's in my opinion a misinterpretation of what happened, and that's why I personally don't really not really like the film. But I understand from his point of view why he liked it and why he wanted to make them and how he did make it. But I just feel like he got so much hype. Then another one was Everything Everywhere All at Once. I mean, that film got a lot of hype too. Oh my God, that film that there was when he got the Oscars and everything, just didn't get it.
I agree that it was a fun movie. I'm not sure it was an Oscar. Yes, and if any, I mean, honestly, I enjoyed it, but I was like watching, going, "Oh wow, someone decided to rewrite The Matrix as a comedy." Like, with I don't know.
It was, yeah. I understand when someone before watching this film, someone told me like this is a TikTok film. This is a TikTok film. I don't know what a TikTok film is. I knew it then. Then when I saw it, okay, I know what a TikTok film is.
Like based upon the editing and the speed and the attention span.
It doesn't really care much for the actually structure of the story. It's more about the scene. It's more about the action. It's more about the scene. It's more about the moment. And it goes really fast, like you're actually scrolling from one content to another, like a TikTok, And I just don't. I think it's a different kind of cinema. It might be something that other filmmakers, younger filmmakers will lean towards in the future, but that's not my kind my kind of film. And honestly, I don't think that's, you know, it is challenging to make something like that. Like to make a film like that one than it is, to make something like 2001. 2001 didn't get an Oscar. I know 2001 did get. I don't know. It did it get an Oscar? I don't know.
God, I should look that up.
Yeah, sometimes I forget if it did.
I should be. It's reception and legacy. Maybe I shouldn't have gone to Wikipedia. Critical response. Oh, I should type the word Oscar. I'll search for the word Oscar. No.
Yeah, I don't think it did. I don't think it did. I think that was
nominated for 4, and it won for visual effects.
yeah, he won for visual effects. It didn't. Yeah, no, he got nominated for best direction at least. Okay. Yeah, but I mean, some
It would be. It is
he
always a
didn't
fun
get.
game, right? It's a fun game to go back and look at the
Yeah,
person who won best director that year and won best film that year, and
yeah.
we talk about that film the way we talk about 2001. I'm gonna guess no, but I'll. I am not. I'm not. I'm not. My. I used to have a pretty good brain, but I've gotten quite old, so I definitely don't remember trivia anymore, and I can't.
No,
I
no,
wish I
no,
could
no.
say it. I wish I
I
could.
don't remember either. I have to check many times, but it's like, everything everyone's got an Oscar for best film, and I think the brothers got best directors, and just so much for Oscar's credibility for me. It's okay. It's a fun movie. There's a lot of action scenes, but I just don't see it. I don't see that. I don't see it's more like to me, it was more like a comedy, like I'm making a comedy about the concept of multiverses. I'm just that's what I felt like. That's what I felt like I was when I started watching. Oh, yeah, that's going to be a comedy about multiverse, so that's going to be interesting. They're not going to take themselves seriously. But then they started to take it seriously, the scientific part of the film. I was like, okay, now it's not even funny anymore. It's that's I know a lot of people disagree with me, but that's a film that I feel that is highly overrated.
Well, and I can share that amusingly, the film that beat 2001 for Best Director, Best Picture, and more was Oliver. The Oliver Twist,
Okay.
the Oliver Twist musical, I believe. Oliver with an exclamation point.
Yeah.
So I'll just leave it at that. I don't think people walk around going, "I found Oliver to be one of the most inspiring films I ever saw, and it made me want to be a
No
filmmaker."
one say that. Yeah, no one's gonna say
And
that.
don't want to. Sorry to everyone involved in
Oh,
Oliver.
I just thought about one underrated. Did we reach the underrated? Did we went through the underrated?
There are no rules here. You can throw in your underrated. You had just honestly said that
No,
most.
just one film that I feel that was very underrated. It's a William Friedkin's film named The Sorcerer. Have you watched The Sorcerer?
You know what? I've heard wonderful things about it, and I haven't
It's
seen
it's
it.
a great, it's an awesome movie, and there are two awesome movies made by two awesome directors. One, Francis Coppola, named The Conversation. The Conversation was released in between the two Godfathers, and got an award in Cannes, and it's an excellent movie, and no one talks about that movie. Another one is The Sorcerer, made by William Friedkin, and it got just the shittiest distribution ever. Some dumb executive, decided, that this movie didn't deserve a bigger distribution because of Star Wars. It was released in the same year as Star Wars, and that messed up. It became a box office bomb because of that. And but it's a great film. It's an awesome film, and it's one of the most underrated films of all time because it was a box office bomb. I mean, I can see Heaven's Gate being a box office bomb because I like Heaven's Gate, but I understand But in The Sorcerer, I mean, that was
Isn't it crazy? Isn't it crazy to think that the director of The French Connection and The Exorcist, his film after The Exorcist, a studio kind of buried because of Star Wars? Like that's just amazing to think that William Friedkin was treated. The idea, I mean, the idea that he even, someone that well established could have their work buried just is shocking.
Yeah, I think they were waiting for Star Wars to go out to get out of the theaters. I think they were waiting for Star Wars to be released, and then But once it was released, no, it stayed in the theaters forever.
Stayed out there forever, but it was. There's room for other films here, but yeah, I know they. It is. It's a crazy time. Crazy. 1977 was crazy. I mean, I was a 9-year-old who got in line to see Star Wars 3 times. I must confess. At age 9, I wasn't saying, "Hey, show me Sorcerer," but what are you going to say? I was 9. I don't blame myself.
Yeah.
All right. Well, for the last question, the last one was a lesser known film that people should seek out. Is I don't want to say that you should stick to Icaria XB1, but feel free. Is there another one that comes to mind that people should seek out?
Well, we spoke about Icaria XB1. We spoke about Sorcerer. There's a conversation. Since I'm Brazilian, I'm going to talk about a Brazilian movie, and it's very contemporary. It's named Bacurau. It's directed by Kleber Mendonça, which is one of the greatest Brazilian directors of these days. He's one of my favorites, and it's also it is a political drama, but it's set in a Western-ish fictional city. So it combines Western with sci-fi. It's a great film named Bacurau, Bacurau.
Excellent. I was about to ask you to spell it for me, so I appreciate that.
It was released in, if I'm not mistaken, 2019. It was released the year before the pandemic, and it got an award in Cannes. I think it was the critics. I think it got one of. It got a Palme d'Or for sure, but it got some other award in Cannes.
Yeah. Yes, it's I'm looking at it. It won the jury prize. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, hey, I appreciate it. I'm sorry I got to wrap things up, I think.
No problem.
But let me finish up. Thank you so much, Tôka, for taking the time to answer those questions. I am going to correct the mistake of having not seen Sorcerer for sure. I've seen The Conversation, and I got to watch Icaria XB1, but so that and Sorcerer, I got to watch those soon. All right, so let me wrap us up by thanking everyone for listening to the Discover Indie Film Podcast. If you want to learn more about it or the TV series that was born from it, just go to discoverindiefilm.com. On social media, it's always at DIFwins. I experienced Tôka's film Nauru. Everyone should see it if and when it gets released somehow. But Nauru took home 5 awards at Film Invasion Los Angeles. It's a brilliant sci-fi film. If you want to learn more about Film Invasion Los Angeles, just go to filminvasionla.com, and it's at Film Invasion LA on social media. We hold that festival every June. Every December, we hold a festival with the name Sherman Oaks Film Festival. You can learn about that one at ShermanOaksFF.com, and it's at ShermanOaksFF on social media. And the last thing I'll ask people to do is check out IndieChannel.tv. Just give it a look. If you like independent films, if you like original works made by people who make films for themselves, by themselves, with the best of intentions of expressing their art, instead of just... now I'm going to throw shade at Hollywood and say some films are made because there's a meeting and people say, okay, here's a list of IP we already own. How can we squeeze more money out of it? And, that's when that is not the math that goes into making an independent film. It's not, okay, we've already made $1.7 billion off this property that we paid $1 billion. Let's squeeze another 500,000 out of whatever. I'm making up stories. But anyway. All right. That is speaking. I have spoken my piece. Tôka, thank you so much for taking the time. And
thank you. Thank you for invasion, and Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas. It is. We are recording on December 24th. It's about to be 9 p.m. in London, so you should hang up on me and pet that dog and say hi to your wife and enjoy that beer.
All right, I will.
All right. Thanks so much.
You, Jeff.
And thank you, everyone, for listening.